to start the podcast. How are you doing?
Good, yeah.
We were just talking off air about your day so far, so pretty hectic. You've done 2 sessions already. It's only 1 o'clock.
Yeah, 2 sessions already, and I'm feeling it. But no, I'm in recovery mode now for the rest of the day. So we had the gym at 7 o'clock this morning, which was group gym session, and then I had a bike session to do afterwards. Because I'm still coming out the other end of an injury now. It's been a long few weeks, but I had a bike session to do by myself there, so got that done earlier on.
So were you doing individual bits in the group gym session as well?
Yeah, so our gym sessions are kind of like they're on at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays. And then our instructor Antoine is there, and if there's different bits we need to tweak, or because there's always like niggles, or someone has a competition this particular week, or and then the other person doesn't, so their gym would look kind of different. So he always just tailors it to whatever the athlete needs that week. Yeah.
But are you back to a stage where you can start to join in some of the lifts?
Yeah, definitely back. Yeah, for some of it, definitely. But there's still like little bits of modifications needed. Like obviously, I'm coming back from a stress fracture in my foot, so like pogo hops and stuff like that. Like there's kind of a few things that are off limits for another little while, but it'll be fine. Yeah.
So you're not at a stage yet where you have got to a level that you can tolerate that impact?
I can tolerate it, but I haven't got the go ahead yet. So they're two very different things, and I'm very stubborn with myself sometimes. And that has gotten me into bother in the past. So yeah, I don't do anything unless I have the green light.
So you are saying you can tolerate it, but the physio and the sports performance team have not given you the green light, so they're not confident yet. They're being a bit more conservative, which is obviously frustrating, I'm sure.
It is, but if doing what I'm told is going to make me, run faster, then I'm going to do what I'm told, But yeah, like my pain threshold has gotten me into bother a couple of times, but with this particular injury, it's a stress fracture. So, I had it for quite a while and didn't realize just how bad it was. And like I had been working with physios on it, but I was able to do a lot of things that you wouldn't have been able to do if you have the injury that I had, have whichever it is, had, yes, we're gonna say had, I think, yeah. So I just didn't know for a while that it was as bad as it was, but here we are, c'est la vie.
Yeah. So what did you think it was for so long? They were probably pretty perplexed. And then did you just push through it and continue training?
Yeah, so I kind of just continued training, because to give you perspective, I've had hamstring tears that were like so much more painful, and I've had so many other injuries that were like 8, 9, 10 out of 10 pain, but this was like a 3, and it stayed a steady 3. Sometimes might go 4 or 5 after a session, but then the next day I'd be like, oh, okay, that's about a 3 again, so that's kind of how it went on for as long as it did, I suppose, without knowing what it was. But after a while of like trial and error of, we think it might be this, and then it wasn't, it wasn't the exercises that I was doing wasn't helping. I was like, look, I can't waste, any more time. I need to get a scan on this and see what it is, because it just wasn't going away, but it wasn't getting any worse. But I never thought that it was anything as sinister as a stress fracture, but again, these things happen, and at the back of your mind, you kind of have to go with your gut always. And my gut was saying, go get the scan, because you actually need to know what's inside that foot. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. How difficult an injury is a stress fracture to take, because like it's unseen, it goes undiagnosed for so long. And from speaking to Liliane in the past and her troubles with stress fractures, like there is a case that sometimes you just question yourself and say, am I just being soft? Like, can I push through this?
Yeah.
So when you get that diagnosis, is it an element of relief, or is it an element of frustration, or what were you feeling when you were given that prognosis?
Okay, I'll paint a picture. So when I got the phone call, to say that it was a stress fracture. I was kind of thinking that it would have been something like tenosynovitis or something like that, because I've had that in the past. I had that about 2 or 3 years ago. And I just woke up one morning after about 6 or 7 weeks of having it, and it was gone. And I was always kind of hoping that would kind of be a similar case here, but it wasn't. But I knew it was a possibility that it could have been a stress fracture, waiting for the result, because when you're waiting for a result of a scan, you're thinking all the time, what could this be? Could it be this? Could it be that? But usually I just try to just completely put those thoughts out of my head. But when I got that phone call, it was 3 days before I was supposed to. Well, I did fly out on a training camp in Tenerife, 10-day training camp in Tenerife, and I found out 3 days before I left. So instantly, when I was told on the phone it's grade 2 stress fracture, blah blah blah, I basically didn't hear a single thing she said after she said stress fracture, because I was like, oh no, oh no. But I just said, thanks very much. I'll get back to you on where I want my referral to be sent to. And I hung up the phone and immediately just let out all the tears that have been building up, because you don't realize how much emotion is behind it until you actually have a concrete diagnosis, I suppose. And then I had maybe about 15 minutes of crying, feeling sorry for myself. And then I thought, right, okay, I have 3 days. Am I going on this training camp? What am I going to do? What do I need to get sorted before I go? Who do I need to tell? I need to ring my coach. I need to ring my gym instructor. I need to ring physio. I need to ring I rang my training partner Alex as well, who has already gone on a warmer at the training camp himself. And I thought, okay, right, that's what I need to do this evening. And then I went and did a bike session as well. So I found out at 5 o'clock in the evening, and I had a day's work done before I went to bed that night. So I was like, I need to do something, and I need to get myself ready to decide whether I'm going on the training camp, get my life together. So I needed like the belt for the pool. I needed, to get a boot sorted, crutches. I needed all those things within the 3 days to fly out on the Saturday. So I kind of just not distracted myself, but having things to sort for a deadline kept me busy and kept me thinking, okay, what can I do today? Have I ticked all those things off the list? Okay, that's grand. Go to bed this evening. And that's what success looks. Success looks different when you're injured. It's basically like what you can do each day to put you a step closer to being back on the track. And the most frustrating thing about it was that it was rest that was needed, because I am not one to be idle, and you just kind of have to get over that feeling of feeling helpless, because yes, you need to rest your foot, but I can't tell you how many times I sat down on a box just punching a bag in the gym over in Tenerife on my training camp, and playing or doing the ropes and doing I'd serious arms coming home from that training camp, because like you just do anything you're able to do. But yeah, that was kind of what it was like. Just that initial shock, and then not hearing anything she said on the phone to me after she said stress fracture. That was the initial reaction, I suppose.
It sounds like you took control of what you could control, really, and it was a very pragmatic approach to dealing with it. After you'd felt what you were entitled to feel, you were like, right, what can I do about it? And you move forward. I was laughing as well, because I think you kind of let out something there you probably shouldn't have, that you did a bike session the day of it, and you weren't meant to be on the bike.
That's also a very good thing. Yeah, I did, because at that point, ignorance can always be like, ignorance was bliss in the moment, because I was like, okay, right, I'm going to go. And I went and I looked at the bike sessions that I've had before from previous injuries, and I was like, what's the toughest one? I'm going to pick that one and go do that one. And that's what I did. And then in the days after that, they're like, whoa, okay, you're not supposed to do that. But I had the session of my life on the track 2 days before I figured out that I had the stress fracture, So your life can go from being like, whoa, okay, things are going great, we're going to ignore the foot, to, oh, never mind, you can't ignore that, you need to deal with it. So Yeah, but I think what you were saying there about having that, taking control of the controllables, I'm not a stranger to injuries, and no high performance sports person is. But I think it's unfortunate that I've had as much practice dealing with injuries as I have. But I think as you grow as an athlete, your ability to be able to kind of move on from these different things that are thrown at you is what's going to define you. So I just, again, I think as well with injury, you can nearly feel, I hate sympathy and I hate self-pity, because like I'm choosing to do the sport that I do because I love it. And if something happens that, puts a spanner in the works, that's okay. No one's dying. I'm fine, but it just needs to be dealt with. This isn't going to end my career. Thank God, so it just needs to be, it's just another chapter of the book.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Another chapter. And
yeah,
if everything was plain sailing, it wouldn't be a great book, really.
No.
So
boring.
But that did stand out to me when we were speaking about it, because I think I was speaking to you about it the week that you found out, and
Possibly, yeah.
you were incredibly positive for somebody that had just received that news, in my mind, because I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
stress fracture at this stage of the season.
Yeah.
But in another sense, like, obviously it's never ideal to get injured,
No.
but at least there's a possibility that you can still race this season.
Yeah, that would definitely be my aim. Like I really want to be back for the outdoor season, and to have whatever sort of a season my body allows me to have. But like, I'm 24. I'm more in love with the sport than I ever have been, even though there's been some, like the last 2 years been very difficult with other injuries as well. I had hamstring tears and all this sort of crack, but what sprinter hasn't, but I think I have a long way left, or a long road ahead of me in the sport, and I just know that things are gonna be good again, and I'll look back at this part of my life and this part of my athletics career and be very proud of myself when I come out of the other end of it, because there's been times like that in the past where I look back and I think, okay, that was cool, thank God I didn't give up when things got tough. But yeah, that's kind of, yeah, I'm hoping to be back for the outdoor season anyway. Yeah.
People listening to this will hear it and think that you're coming off extremely driven, and in a sense, like, well, obviously you are, but I think one aspect of being that driven that probably wouldn't be spoken about too often in relation to injuries is, over the last 6 weeks, you've probably had to apply a high level of restraint to protect yourself from yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I know your sports performance staff have been by your
Yeah.
side, probably pulling you back and protecting yourself from yourself as well.
Yeah.
But do you find that, having gone through the injury experiences in the past, that now you know to steer the course a little bit better than you did when you were younger?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Like when you're younger, I used to nearly feel guilty for being injured, because you can't do what you love doing, and then it's like, oh, like I just want to go, I just want to do that. But really, when you take a step back and you take the third, an outside perspective, the only thing that's going to actually help me right now is the rest that I allowed myself to have. Because otherwise you would be hurting yourself even more. Take a chill pill, relax, like just take a step back, allow yourself to heal, and focus on the things that you actually can do. Like when I'm injured, I make more time for my friends and family that I wouldn't, we get so caught up in our day-to-day lives, and I'm able to meet people at a time that they're able to meet me at, not just the whole world revolving around you, because high performance sport is very selfish and you're very locked into particular times of training and stuff. And people like my family and friends, they kind of have to revolve around my schedule a lot, which is so unfair, but it's just the way it is. But yeah, I kind of make time for things that I like doing other than sport, to try and keep me busy and keep me like doing things that I like other than running. That kind of helps.
You've said there that sometimes when you're injured, you feel a little bit guilty, but then you have to say no to a lot of things as a high performance athlete when you're healthy. Do you ever feel the same or a similar level of guilt when you're in the frame of mind that you're singularly focused towards performance?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like you do miss out. Well, I say miss out, but everything is a choice. Like I've never made a choice that wasn't my own. Do you know what I mean? Like, or no one's ever made a choice for me that I didn't, have to say yes or no to. So for, let's say, college and like the friends I have in my life, I feel so lucky with the friends I have, because they're so understanding of everything I do. They don't understand sport, a lot of them, like, as in they think I'm absolutely crazy, some of them, but they understand that I see them as much as I am able to, and I join in on the crack as much as I can. And if they didn't understand that, and I would understand, a similar perspective from them if there's something in their life that they, might have to miss out on something I've planned, whatever. But it works both ways. But yeah, no, like the people I have around me are very accepting of that. And I think it would be a bit more difficult if that wasn't the case. So
it sounds like you value your time with them,
yeah,
and your family as well,
yeah, definitely,
to a very high degree.
Yeah.
Does that become even more apparent when you get to spend a little bit more time with them when you're injured?
I suppose, because
Or do you get sick of them?
I don't know, maybe they get sick of me, but I don't get sick of them. But I usually go home every weekend anyway. And some people might find that funny, but I genuinely do think, but like, Ballinrobe is the center of my universe. And I always say to people that the Ballinrobe is the center of the universe, but it genuinely is the center of mine, because that's where my family are, and I love going home at the weekends. And I have 3 brothers, and they would usually be around at the weekends as well. One of them is living in Dublin, but he usually comes home at the weekends. And then the other 2 are kind of around. But I like seeing them, and when I go home, I'm not like Sarah the athlete. I'm just Sarah. Like they don't ask about training unless I bring it up, which is kind of rare. And it's not because they don't care, but it's just because I don't want my whole life to be. That's not my whole life's narrative. And then with regards to my friends, I see a lot of my friends kind of during the week, when I can, yeah. But training kind of does take up a lot of evenings. We train 4 days on the track, 2 days in the gym. Like, you're quite locked in 6 days a week, but there's always time for people you love, and I make time always. I never really use my phone or be texting my friends like you are, nonstop on my phone. I always make time to actually see them, and that's one of the big things that I prioritize in my life, because I feel like we all kind of can get caught up in living this online existence, which actually isn't a true existence, and it could just make you stressed. So yeah, that's kind of a big thing in my life.
I can empathize with that.
Yeah.
No doubt. Sometimes it can be frustrating for my friends, I'm sure, and my athletes and my co-workers, that I'm not as accessible on my phone as maybe I might have been. But since I have put strict boundaries in place around my phone, I find that I'm not in a hyper stress state all the time, because there'll always be someone to text or something to deal with on your phone. And we spoke about it already, like it's probably going to hamper your recovery that you're very focused on at the moment, because you're in a rehab phase, like, and you're returning to the track. So like, do you try to stay off the phone then, even when you go home to recover after this? So
it's not like I make a conscious effort to be like, okay, for my recovery now I need to get off my phone. But it's more of it was more of a gradual thing of, let's say I have a lot going on in college this week, and then your phone is pinging like 20 times every hour, and there's group chats going. I mean, all these different group chats from different committees, different clubs, and then I have like group chats from friends from home, group chats from things up here, and I love being involved in everything. But there comes a time where, just for my own mental zen, I turn off all notifications on my phone. And there's a lot of cases where I don't see messages that have been sent to me, but the people that are very close to me in my life, they all know that I'm just like that. If they haven't got a reply in an hour, they know to ring me that evening. And then, that's kind of how I roll now. But I've noticed that because I'm not, constantly engaging with all these different messages, group chats, I have such better conversations with friends and family now, because I actually have stuff to talk about, you know, when I actually get to talk to them, which is great. But it's not everyone's approach, because as I said, like, we live in this world that's constantly connected, and I just don't feel like it's doing wonders for people, to be honest.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
I often use a phrase or a turn of phrase that not many people like when they hear it, but
Yeah.
I'm similar in that I'd be like, text me, I will get back to you.
Yeah.
I'm probably different in the sense I said, don't ring me. If you ring me, I'll ring you back, or if you text me to ring you, I'll ring you back.
Yeah.
But the phrase that I use is, my phone is for my convenience, not for yours.
Yeah.
And that is kind of selfish, but just because you're prioritizing other things at that moment in time, people don't realize that you're doing that so that you can prioritize them when you're giving them the time. Because they're everything to you in that moment. And if you were constantly replying to people round the clock, then you're not actually connecting with people like you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think I'll ever go back to the way I was, like. So yeah, that's me. The phone.
I agree. I'm probably more to go further away from. I probably won't have a phone eventually. Than I am to go back to the old way. Yeah, exactly. But then in terms of recovery, and it's something that's probably not spoken about as much, or maybe it is changing a little bit in terms of the recovery processes. Is there anything crazy that you're doing in terms of recovery, or is it just doing the small things very, very well?
So when it comes to recovery, I think it's the small thing. There's nothing major that I'm doing that no one else is doing. Do you know what I mean? But I think a lot of things with high performance sport, it's like anything, like, it's about getting the basics right every single day. That's the hard part, doing it every day. You could do it for, anyone could do it for a day, could do it for a week, but to do it week in, week out is the hard part. Even with training, like, you could tell anyone to go down to a track and try their best, and they could be really happy with what they've done, but then to motivate them to do it the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then make sure you get your 8 hours sleep, make sure you drink 2 to 3 liters of water, make sure you get enough protein, make sure they're all simple things, but when you add them together, that's when people find it very difficult to manage. But it's all about doing your best, and trying to do the basics right every single day that's the bare minimum for high performance sport.
I think it's the bare minimum for any endeavor, really.
Yeah.
And on the way down, I was listening to Alex Hormozy, who's this business guru, and he put it down very simply to 2 things. It's commitment and consistency.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it from a GAA athlete or an amateur athlete perspective. And look, in some cases, people have neither commitment nor consistency. But a lot of the time, the athletes that I'm dealing with, they're not lacking for commitment. But what they're lacking potentially is a little bit more consistency in their application of their behaviours and their habits. Both in training and around their training in their lives. And it's easy to commit. Well, it's not easy, but to commit to training hard. It's easier to commit to training hard. It's not as easy to commit to training hard within a program, within a plan, recovering hard as well. But also, when it comes a point, training easy. And as well as that, you have to commit to and be consistent in switching off and recovering as well.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that consistency, like, you when you're working towards a particular goal, or, you know, just you're training at a high level, even at a basic level as well, like, it consumes your every thought nearly, because you're like, okay, have I enough protein in this meal? Have I drank my water today? There's all those little things you constantly need to be thinking about, because that is what makes the difference. And that is what people kind of neglect sometimes, because they think it's not as important, but that enables you to do the important thing of training. When you don't have the basic recovery tools, you're wasting your time, because you're going to be injured, or you're going to be, too tired, you're going to lack motivation, and you're just not going to be prepared. So I think, consistency and the commitment, like you were saying as well.
Do you think you've learned that to an even higher degree based on the fact that, in comparison to your competitors or your teammates, you could be considered a little bit more of a late developer. And then follow-up question, which might be a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're a very detail-focused person.
Yeah.
Do you think any of that comes from your background in dance and ballet?
Oh my God. Okay, that's a blast from the past. For people that don't know, I did ballet for 14 years. I actually only gave it up when I was going to college because I needed to give more days to running, and one kind of had to go. You have to choose. But yeah, I am very detail focused. But I also think the fact that I'm going to be an accountant in the future as well will give you a little bit of a background on how my brain works. And my coach is also an accountant. He's a management accountant. So his plans are all so detailed and so well put together. And I just love that. Give me an Excel file any day.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, geez, with ballet, I used to think that was so good for injury prevention, and also from the whole plyometric side, you're constantly bouncing on your feet, and it always gives. I think dance in particular gives such a good base for progressing in a particular sport, from an injury perspective and from plyometrics, because you're powerful, fast. And just the coordination as well as a hurdler. It's kind of aggressive coordination, to be honest, but yeah, I suppose there is kind of a lot of attention to detail involved in ballet, and it might have just transferred over, I suppose. There might be a reason why I liked, athletics and ballet in particular, as opposed to, maybe some other sport. But yeah, they're both very detail focused. So yeah,
there's also quite a lot of volume in preparing for dance and ballet.
There is, yeah.
So it sounds like you enjoy volume from talking about what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
But whereas your races now, because you're a sprinter, are so short.
Yeah.
Do you have to maybe err on the side of caution in terms of volume a little bit more than trying to do a little bit extra?
Yeah, well, in terms of doing a bit extra and stuff like that, I do exactly what my coach tells me to do.
Nice.
And
that's great.
If he tells me we're lightening the load this week, I'm like, okay, sound. You tell me whatever you want me to do. But
hope a lot of people are listening to that.
But he's a mastermind behind the programming, like, and I have complete faith in him. And
we shout out Brendan as well.
Yeah, shout out to Brendan Glenn there. He's definitely going to be listening to this as well. He always is our number one supporter. But yeah, no, it's up to him really, and whatever he thinks, I will do. So, you will never catch me down at that track doing an extra session the week of a race when it's not on the program. If it's not on the program, it's not being done.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of doing a bit extra, the only time we do a bit extra is like after our gym session. Our gym session is an hour long, and there's another group that comes in after us, so we kind of have to clear out. But let's say if core is written on the board and we didn't get a chance to do it, like myself and my training partner Alex will definitely get it done. We'll either come here or we always get the extra bits done like that. Like, there's nothing that would be left out. But yeah, what Brendan gives us to do on a weekly basis is more than enough usually.
Do you think that coach athlete fit and that environment of the NUIG college environment played a big part in you experiencing that larger period of a success than you had in the past at junior level? As in, I was looking back through records and it seems to line up pretty concretely that 2019 2020 in college you started in PB first, second. Is it a lot down to finding, not to say that your coaches previously weren't great coaches, but the right fit at the right time? And is that why you've stuck around for 6 years in NUIG?
Jeez, yeah, I'm so long in NUIG now. But okay, so underage, I would have had my coach from underage was Jim Ryan, fantastic coach. But I think me developing, when I came to college, had a lot more to do with the fact that I was able to push myself more because my body was ready for it, and also like just being a bit of a late bloomer physically as well. Like, and then in college, I had more kind of structure around training. And it just kind of was, I think I wouldn't be a successful college athlete if I hadn't trained with the coach I had trained with before I got here. And I also
laid the foundation.
Yeah, it laid the foundation, but he also didn't overtrain me, which is a big thing. Like Jim was so fantastic, and I think he is one of the biggest reasons why I kept in the sport all those years, because I think they are like some of the most difficult years when you're in kind of like transition year, fifth year leaving cert in school. And he kind of when I needed space, he gave me space. When I needed more sessions, he gave me more sessions. But he is one of the bigger reasons why I was kept in the sport all those years. And when I got to college then, and Brendan kind of took over, that was a whole different world altogether. But I think they're both very important in their own way. But
that was going to be my question. In like, how did Jim keep you enjoying the sport and keep you competing for so long? Because at that age level in particular, with female athletes, there's a huge drop off. So what kept you going, and what were the characteristics of the coaches you worked with that helped you or facilitated your development at the time?
I think not pushing me too much. And I think it can't just be in isolation. There's a lot of reasons why I'm still in the sport. Like there's you know, I have parents that come up asking me, you know, like for advice on, you know, my child is really good at athletics. She's 9. What can I do? Like, will I bring her out on a Saturday as well as her club training during the week? And I'm like, no, leave the child alone. And you know, like, leave the child alone. The best thing, and I really mean this, the best thing my parents ever did for me was leave me alone. And they've always let me do whatever I wanted, you know, with decisions on whether I wanted to do a particular sport, whether I didn't want to do it. Everything was always my decision the whole way up. And I think that is absolutely key as to why I'm still in the sport, because I'm in it because I love it. And then I've been really lucky with the coaches that have guided me along, because my juvenile coach, he kept me in the sport and kept encouraging me, and had group trainings, and it was just kind of, you know, you took it one week by week. And we were pals as well, like, you know, and he was in his 70s, but you know, like we always had a bit of fun, you know. And then when I came to college, that's the biggest chapter of my high performance career, I suppose, because Brendan he has structure up here. We train 4 days on the track, 2 days in the gym. And when you're in that college setup, my whole life kind of changed when I started college. I was doing a college course that I hadn't done business accounting or economics, but I decided I'd do global business or global commerce for my undergrad. And that's a whole other thing. It's you know, learn to trust your gut. And I knew I needed to be here and I wanted to do that. But anyone else looking at the decision, they'd be like, what? This girl is crazy. But I had trust in Brendan and I had trust in Jim, and they've put time, effort, and they've trusted my ability. And I think that is one of the biggest things. And they've always listened to me. That was one of the bigger things. My coach always listens to feedback that I give him. And likewise, I listen to everything he tells me as well, you know. But it's always kind of a give and take relationship. I think coaches that don't listen to the feedback of their athletes will find it very, very hard to keep an athlete engaged and keep the trust of an athlete. Because if an athlete doesn't feel like they're being heard, it's a waste of time, you know, because I think it should be a partnership. Yeah. So, yeah.
You need.
Gone off on a tangent.
No, you're not. You're not. Yeah. Well, that's what podcasts are for. You need open lines of communication. It needs to go both ways. And yeah, as a coach myself, I try to do that. And sometimes I fall off the other side. And like, as an example, last night, I was probably a little bit too authoritative in a case of dealing with a group of athletes. Yeah. And being the person that I am and the way that I think, I wasn't able to just leave it there. So I had to text them all individually afterwards to apologize and to amend the situation. But
at least you could do that, you know?
Yeah, well, I'd have to, or else I would be an incredibly authoritative coach. And that's what... from working in the GAA, like that's all that the athletes know, and it hasn't it's got them far, but it probably isn't going to get them further in a lot of cases. It needs to be a collaboration, as you said. Like you need to listen and hear the athlete and understand where they're coming from. And I do understand where they're coming from. But if you're very short with them as a coach, which it is appropriate at times, but if you're doing that consistently all the time, then you're not leaving space for a conversation to happen. Like we've been just talking about, the reason we got off the phone is for to get away from the single lines of text. So if you're just speaking in single lines of text, you're not going to have a very valuable conversation with the athlete.
I think emotional intelligence is quite important as well, though, and I think sport is one of I think like it just gives you an education for life, in the sense that you learn how to deal with so many different personalities, and you're coming from a team setting, and I'm sure you have however many people under the one roof, and you have to learn how to communicate with each individual, and and find what motivates each person. For me, it's detail. Give me a direct plan. I will absolutely follow it, and tell me exactly what to do, and I'm going to do it. But for someone else, if you give them that, they might get really overwhelmed and then think, oh my God, that's such a big task. Whereas, they might have to take it day by day. Whereas if I see, a week done out for me, I'm like, okay, cool, that's perfect. I'm going to do that time. I'm going to do this, Whereas, there's different things that can be done for different athletes to get the best out of them.
But coaching is by nature, and like the best thing about it, I suppose, is you need to have both of those type of athletes in a group. Because if everybody just does what you say all the time, sure, it makes it easy to implement your training plan, but you're never getting challenged as a coach, and you're never rethinking what you're doing, or
I suppose,
like assessing whether you're going in the right direction.
As in like with reps and stuff of like
as in relation to modalities of training. It might be kind of different, I suppose, in a team sport setting, because there's so many different qualities that have to be developed. But reps, sets, volume of running, intensity of each session, weekly loads, etc. There's a crossover, like obviously a great crossover between strength and conditioning and athletics coaching. And if you're not getting any feedback from your athletes, then you're not learning anything.
Brendan gets us to give feedback every day. Like he's constant. Like he always says, the plans are written in pencil, and we know that, like that channel of communication is open. Like if you're absolutely dying after however many sets on the side of the track, and he's like, oh, this session is only supposed to be a 7 or 8 out of 10, like you're 10 out of 10 on the ground there, call it, so that's exactly what you're saying there. Like, you need the feedback. And I think maybe earlier on I was a bit like rigid, saying, that give me the exact thing to do and I'll do it, but he does get the feedback as well.
But you will, but he's also emotionally intelligent enough to know that you will, so he goes to you for feedback. And I have a lot of athletes that are like that as well, and they'll consistently give all of the sessions an RPE of 6 to 7, and it'll very rarely go above that. But I know which athletes are those athletes, and then I might go for more of a subjective measure, where like I'm actually asking them for not a quantitative number, but a qualitative answer in terms of like, describe that session to me. How could we improve it? What are we missing, etc. But that is working in a group, and you do work in a group, even though it's an individual sport. And you've mentioned Alex a few times there, and you've mentioned your training partners and your training group. Have they been refreshing to have in the last 6 weeks in terms of driving on your motivation? Because you said one of the first things you did when you got the diagnosis was text Alex.
And as well as Brendan and all that. So I suppose athletics, like, it's notorious for being such a lonely sport, because it is an individual sport. But Brendan has a great group set up here in Galway, and we all care. It's nice to see that there's no kind of bad vibes or anything. You come down to training, you know that you're going to see the friendly faces, you know that you're all going to be feeling the same pain in a few minutes after the warm-up. Like, it's great. It's a great group that we have, and because you spend so much time with the people in the group, you get to know them so well and you become great friends, and they like, it's such a good support system we have down there. But I've made like friends for life out of it. Like Alex and his wife Katie are superstars. They're such good people, and I wouldn't have known them only for I train in the same group, you know. But yeah, like when things go wrong, you know that they're all there like for a chat, and they know how you're feeling, because at some point they've all had injuries as well. So you know that there's a safe space for you to go and discuss something, or even if you just want to go and give out for 5 minutes, you know, you could do that. You can do that, and then you can solve all the world's problems and go back to doing what you love, you know. But having that group there is really beneficial, and I think a lot of athletes around the country, a lot of athletics athletes like would agree that a group is really, really helpful in a lot of situations. It's not to say that you can't be successful without a group. You can, but I don't know, are you going to enjoy it as much, do you know?
Different people might,
Yeah,
you
different
know,
people might,
but
exactly,
it's
yeah.
not for everyone, I suppose, to train
Yeah.
by themselves.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's a lonely sport already. Why make it
Yeah.
lonelier?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, so like, do you think that the qualities of your training partners, because you're around each other so often and you are chatting and communicating and helping
Yeah.
each other out, do they rub off on you generally?
100%. I am a firm believer that you become your surroundings. And if you're looking, if you're listening to this podcast and you're looking around at your friends and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to be like them, you need new friends. You know, I would happily be like any one of the people that I spend my time with. And I think that's a key part of why the group is successful. I'm sorry, what was your original question just there? Sorry.
Did your qualities rub
Yeah,
off?
yeah, they do. Yeah. Sorry. I was like, did I just go off on another tangent again? It wouldn't be like me. But yeah, I think they would kind of rub off on you, because like, even like, as I was saying earlier on, doing the extra bit, like, you know, if there was core to do after a gym session, could walk out the door. But if Alex is like, oh, are we going to do core now? There's no notion in my mind that's going to be like, no, I'm actually not, I'm going to go home. You know, you're going to go, you're going to stay, and you're going to do the core, because there's a little bit of competitiveness, even though we're never going to be competing against each other. It's like, you know, you always have to keep up and keep with the pace, otherwise you're falling off, you know.
And that works positively as well as negatively sometimes. As in, similarly in that group that I was speaking about last night, one of the athletes messaged me after I messaged him, and he was like, no, actually I was happy that you stopped us there, because my hamstring was flared up. I was only doing it because the others were doing it.
That's such bad peer pressure.
But it's great in a sense as well. If his hamstring wasn't flaring up, it would have been great.
It would have been great,
but that athlete in particular just needs to realize that the optimal amount for everybody is different.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though you're more inclined to push through it as well.
Right, I'll do it. Like,
but it's probably better to be able to push through it and to continue, rather than the converse of, oh, I'm just going to fob that off. Because like, I know we talk about protecting athletes and doing the right amount all the time, but you still have to have a want and a need to go that extra mile. It's easier to help athletes that will go the extra mile than to push athletes that whole extra mile as a coach. And that's something that is difficult in a group, but if you're in the right group, as you said, and your surroundings are the right ones for you to develop, then you're going to have more of those athletes that are willing to go that extra mile. And then it's also going to breed a culture of wanting to do the extra bit, I suppose.
And people that are in, like, let's say a culture of a team sport, that like I see this with team sports sometimes, where you have so many people in a group, there's going to be some that are less motivated. Don't bring yourself down to that level. Be the person that you want to look up to in the group. Don't be bringing yourself down to match the level of someone else because you're afraid that they'll shame you for doing more. To hell with that. Like, do you know, like, be the athlete that you want to be, because you have no idea the opportunity and the capabilities of your body until you push it. Like, everything seems impossible until it's actually just finished. Do you know, like, every task that I've, you know, achieved in the last couple of years, if you had told me as a 9-year-old or 10-year-old that I would be doing those things, I'd be like, yeah, no way, because there's something in everyone else that can do it, but not me. But that's not the case. Everyone is so capable, and never, ever, ever limit yourself based off of someone else. If the culture of your team is not matching what you want it to be the change in the team, and let others follow suit, and don't blink an eye if anyone questions you.
In a group setting, typically stolen from Ronan O'Gara as a coach, you have 3 groups, and you have 5-6 athletes that are the ones that drive standards and will always give 100%. And no matter what, they're going to do what you just outlined there. You have the Sapuchinos on the end who are happy to be there and want to give out about things and do the bare minimum. And you have a large group in the middle that will go with whichever group is the strongest in terms of the whole team. So as a coach, a lot of it is about facilitating and helping and guiding that group at the top end that are always going to drive standards, so that the middle group are pulled along, and then the 5 or 6 at the end are forced into joining, or else they're forced into leaving if it's not the right fit, rather than if you're negligent and you don't listen to your athletes and you are more authoritative, then you're probably going to give more of a voice to the guys that want to give out, because then they'll be giving out so much that the other group in the middle will probably be like, yeah, you're right, I'm going to start giving out and start fobbing off training, etc. And that's the challenge, I suppose. But it sounds like you're in a very positive group here in Galway, and it doesn't sound like you can see yourself leaving that group anytime soon.
No.
But in relation to if you are going to be traveling in the next few months, what are the aspirations for this season? Just to wrap up, like, what are you taking it day by day because of the injury, or do you have an end goal in mind?
Okay, so there's 2 things to this. I have my long-term, or my kind of medium-term plan for this year is to be back on that track healthy. And whatever I have no like exact time or anything like that I want to run, because I think that would be silly to decide on right now. My goal right now is to be healthy, happy, and on that start line this summer. And in terms of success for this year, success is going to look different every single day that I wake up. Today it was, I got my gym session done, got my bike session done, going to have, a nice relaxing day now, recover. And
after this,
and then, like that, going to bed tonight, I'll be like, that was a successful day. But as the weeks go on, that's going to change, as in, a competition or, more intense training when I'm back on the track and stuff like that. Like, they're all going to be different factors to that. But yeah, healthy, happy, fit on that start line. That's what's going to happen this summer.
That's the title of the book that's a chapter of. We're going to finish with quick fire questions. First one is proudest achievement to date.
Oh geez, I'm not going to say that it was any particular medal or any particular race. I just think being at the level I'm at now, still being in the sport, still loving it, and leading a life that I am really proud of, that's my proudest achievement, to be honest. Yeah, that's probably it.
That's a very admirable one, and very deep as well. Very deep. It's great. Favorite athlete of all time?
Oh, I have to go with Dermot O'Rourke. Yeah, absolutely. Like, such a role model. And Sarah Lavin is absolutely killing it right now. Yeah,
QB every week.
Absolutely.
What's the biggest thing you've learned the last 12 months?
I am so much stronger than I ever thought I could be.
Nice.
Yeah.
What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Geez, I don't know. I think just trust the process. Because at 18, I didn't even think that an international vest would be a possibility for me. I was sitting my leaving cert. So yeah, I would just say, yeah, trust the process.
And now look at you, you're driving on the standards for women's athletics. Like, but you are, like, you helped, you were on the team to qualify for the Worlds last year. Like, so, like, tangible, like, and visible process orientated achievements towards furthering the sport of athletics in Ireland. So fair play to you. I think everybody that listens to this is going to hear just how driven you are, and you're very humble and modest, so you're probably not going to accept that, but what a conversation. Thanks a million for your time.
One other thing I actually want to say is, this is something I always think of, but it's something that's always been in the back of my mind, is if you throw enough muck at a wall, eventually some of it is going to stick. And that I am a classic case of that. So if I can do it, anyone else can do it. And hard work is hard work, no matter where you do it or, you know, who's around you when you put in the hard work. So just keep going.
What a way to finish it. Thanks a million.
No problem.
Good job.
All good.